Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being the show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Blacklist. Another great episode. I love that, because obviously the entire episode, you're like, okay, this is about the informant and everything, and then it takes that hard twist. It's like the informant is just the beginning of this, because the informant turns out to work for Henry Prescott, who, Donald, wrestler is under his thumb, and it's like, oh, you gotta let him go and everything. And it's like, oh man, that sucks. And now I was like, oh man, I didn't know what wrestler was gonna do. I was like, oh man, wrestler's gonna let him get away. It's like, is wrestler gonna do the right thing? Is he gonna do the right thing? Especially in this episode, I should have figured. I didn't expect him to bring it up this episode, because earlier in the episode they're like, oh yeah, wrestler, you're such a straight and narrow guy, because the whole conversation came up about Liz. Liz is out for revenge. She probably won't come back to the task force because she's willing to break whatever law she needs to break in order to avenge Tom. And then wrestler's kind of like, a cop shouldn't go outside of the law. They're like, oh yeah, you're kind of a stickler for the rules. You won't even jaywalk when no hair is out of place. The fact of the matter is, and Haram was kind of like, oh, you'd be actually a pretty good criminal. No one would, you'd kind of get away with it. And he's like, I would know, to him that's, and there's the moment he starts saying that, I was like, oh yeah, because you're under Henry's thumb. I was like, right, I almost forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that situation's still ongoing, isn't it? And then later on it pops up in the episode, but I thought that was just kind of foreshadowing for it to continue on throughout the season, but wasn't expecting it to bring up this episode. What I also appreciate is the fact is that wrestler still went through it. I was like, good guy, that Donald's still a good guy, because he's always been a stickler for the rules. He always tries to go let's not forget how he handled the whole Liz situation. He went about that legally, but the moment he found out okay, there's his friend that needs help, he was willing to help her. So it's as long as it's about about things the right way, he's willing to do it, So, but he did the right thing in this instant. But then that led to Henry's name being taken out there, and obviously Harold and Samara both kind of yeah, wrestler's been a little off lately. And then lo and behold, Red knows about it. I'm like, Red, I should have figured, because I was like, Red literally, a couple episodes back was like, if you ever need anything, Donald, you can always come to me. It's like, he knew back then, but we didn't know just how much he knew. And it's like, this whole situation was set up by Red. I love that turn. It's like, oh yeah, I gave you an informant because I knew he was a client of Henry. Basically, it was a test to see how far a wrestler would go, if wrestler would go as far, because this guy is stealing information from basically his whole thing is he stole information that the Treasury was going, these certain accounts that are tied to groups that the Treasury would freeze. The informant would get that information, ransom it to those said people, basically oh, you pay me a certain amount of money, I give you access to your account before it gets frozen and stuff like that. So he's connected to very bad people. He's basically helping bad people get their money back, to continue doing the terrible things that they do. So this was kind of the perfect test, because he is the perfect client, because it's like, yeah, you've done stuff here and there, been very shady. And I knew eventually that'd be the point, because that was something I've talked about in the show already set up. It's eventually Henry would ask Donald to do more and more and more. And how far are you willing to go? And Donald found that line he wasn't willing to cross in this particular case, but he was about to, but he didn't. And Reddit is like, oh yeah, I'm glad. So they end up talking to the judge, and it's kind of sad the reason why the judge kind of got set up in all this. It's interesting too, because we end up finding out that actually Mitchell's he's actually an attorney. Well, the fact of the matter is he might not be because yeah, it's he was the attorney that she was mentioning, so his real name is Mitchell. So, but I guess that's how he's kind of as hands-on with things as he is, as good as this illegal operation that he does. It's almost funny because he's out there talking about, oh yeah, judging, almost like he's judging Donald for being a crooked cop. It's no, I mean, he's not judging you. It's more hey, I'm taking advantage of this situation because I know who you really are now. Even setting that whole situation up, he took that recording from the conversation him and Donald had. He's like, I will, basically threatening to kill him, and he cut that audio and made it seem like it was a message sent for an IA agent, Perez, because she was killed. Everything, he's very good at manipulating a situation. It's kind of he's a fixer and everything. So, that whole situation was meant to be an alibi for the judge and for Howard Bishop, but he ended up manipulating that situation. It was a contingency plan, maybe that he already has set in place just in case Donald didn't fall in line. I don't know. Which once again shows you just how deadly of an opponent he is. But Donald had no intentions of ever killing him. It's like, I'm going to arrest him. He tried to run, but Wrestler didn't take him down. Well, took him down, but arrested him and didn't kill him. But Red ended up cleaning up that situation by taking care of him, which Red is like, no, I killed him. Don't be so self-centered as to think I did it all for you. It's like, no, he knew of my relationship with the task force. Couldn't let that come out in open court during a trial. So there's that, but I think there's also a little bit of the side of like, you kind of care about Wrestler. Wrestler is part of this task force. This task force is important to you. It allows you to do what you need to be done, and it allows you to stay close to Liz too. But to be fair, Liz isn't part of the task force anymore, but he also did make the promise to her too, is the main reason why he's still doing it. So I think it's all connected. Like, he cares for Liz, and that's the only reason why he cares about the task force, but I think it's also because at the same time, it's like, he's kind of come to care for the task force because they are important to Liz. Same reason why he cared about Tom. It's like, I don't really like you, Tom, don't really trust you, but you're important to me because you're important to Liz. So it kind of falls in the same category, because he did promise her, like, even if she's not a part of the task force, while I'm going, help them out. So I think he's still keeping up that promise, helping them get blacklisters and stuff like that. So like I said, I'm curious to see will we get any look into like that time period, that year that she was unconscious, or that time she's been away since like the winter finale, between episode 8 and 9, that time skip, like, you know, what he's been up to with the task force. I mean, were they doing anything while Liz was away? Because she only made that promise after she woke up and was about to leave. So like, did he keep that up while she was in her coma? And also, it's kind of interesting because Samara ended up bringing us, how's Agnes? And you see Liz immediately shut that down. It's like, oh, no, I'll see you later. It's like, because no one knows. The only person who knows about the whole Scotty situation with her is Reddington. So what shows you how much of a good person Donald is, like Wrestler is. It feels weird calling him Donald because I've always called him Wrestler, so it feels weird when I slip up and call him Donald. Not even just the, like, you know, Donald Duck situation, which isn't only Donald. There's Donald Sutherland, Donald Glover. Nevertheless, I'm going all over the place. Excuse me in my tangents. But he wanted to confess to Harold, but Harold kind of figured as much. But as someone who is a stickler for the rules, who is kind of like a golden boy, who is kind of like a, you know, kind of uptight about the rules, it's eating away at him because he's never crossed this line before. Even back in, wasn't that season 1, the whole Audrey situation happened? Reddington handled that for him, but still it's that situation of he never crossed that line because of what Reddington said to him back then. So he wanted to kind of keep true to that and not cross the line in this particular situation either, even if it meant him going to jail as well. But for Harold, it's like, nope, I don't accept it. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I should be going down for what I've done. It's like, nope, I'll keep this confession until the damn task force is done and you're done doing your job. I will turn this in after that fact. So basically, and also Harold's like, I hope you do the same thing for me. And he brought up an interesting thing. He's like, none of us are the same subsequently since Reddington entered our lives. It's like, no, because everyone in this series has been willing to cross a lot more boundaries than they would have any time in the past. And that's crazy to think about. And it's like, they've all come to realize that, especially because a lot of them kind of turn to Reddington for help. It's that lesser two evils type of thing. Because let's not forget, even Harold this season kind of got help from, Reddington crossing that line for someone that he cared about. But to be fair, it's like Reddington did that on his own because Harold's like, I'll handle it on my own, but like Reddington wouldn't, because he actually comes to care about Harold too. Once again, playing to the whole aspect, you're important to Liz, you're important to me, but also because he kind of respects Harold and just him and all of his principles, you know, just because Harold and as well as Wrestler have been the few, you know, everyone on that task force, essentially, Samara and Haram included, have all been good people. You know, they're very good people, kind of getting all mixed up in his world, much like Liz. I'm sure, like, that's always, that is his biggest regret about doing what he did. He was supposed to stay in the shadows, but because he came out into the light, because he wanted to be around Liz so much, he exposed her to so much. He's exposed her to that darkness in him. And even Wrestler was kind of like the darkness in him. He's like doing this. Hopefully he can find himself back towards the light. And it's just like, dude. But I'm wondering specifically, what is it that Harold handed Wrestler in that folder? Like, was it a situation of like, specifically that whole situation with the son of one of his friends this season? Or everything, every time he's ever crossed the boundaries at all over the course of the show? I'm curious. Because there's been a lot that, you know, crossing that line. Once again, lesser of two evils doesn't make no matter, even if it is a lesser of two evils, does not make accepting that evil any easier. Because even like I think I skipped over it, but the judge ended up killing herself just because she couldn't live with everything that she had done. And even Reddington was like, forgiveness doesn't mean accepting what you did. It's understanding that basically everyone has that little line between good and evil. Essentially everyone struggles with that. It kind of puts it more in perspective of like, you're not accepting like, oh, what I did was okay. It's like, no, you kind of have to live with that, It's just that whole situation gives you a better understanding, a different perspective on it, I guess. It's kind of what he was alluding to. But Wrestler was kind of like, okay, so you remove my files and everything. So I'm not just going to move from being under, Henry's thumb to be under your thumb, which is like, of course not. Blackmail? Come on. What's that? What's blackmail between friends? It's like, which begs the question, like, will Reddington try to use this against Wrestler? I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I don't see him doing it, but it is a possibility, I guess, if he really needs something. And that will always be something probably in the back of Wrestler's mind. It's like, I'll be I'll be under his, like I'll still owe him on some level. And we end up seeing him grabbing a bottle. So I think that's something we can expect. Like, probably seeing, like, this whole thing eating him up in the inside. So hopefully we don't see him come. Maybe he'll show up to work drunk, or maybe it's just like, because there was that period, what was that, like a while back? I think it was around that whole Audrey situation, wasn't it? Like, he got hooked on like pain meds. Was it that far back, or was it a little more recent? I can't remember. That might have been like season two or three. I want to say maybe. I feel like it was slightly more recent, so it might have been it was maybe a later season. It might not have been around the whole Audrey situation, but that was a point like he was kind of getting hooked on like prescription drugs and like the painkillers he was on and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. So I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a bad situation like that, like this whole guilt eating him up on the inside. So kind of having to put on a smile and just do his job normally. I am curious to see what that means going forward for his and Reddington's relationship. But that's not all that went down in this episode. Another big part of this episode is seeing Liz go all rogue. Going to Reddington about it, and Reddington's like, oh, I can't find anything about it. Like, it's like you're lying to her face, because she's like, oh, what was this all about? And it's like, you know exactly what it's about, but you're not saying anything to Liz about it. And the thing is, it's going to suck when the truth comes out. What's going to be worse is when Liz has to find out on her own. She's literally steps away from finding out on her own. And, but the thing is, like, seeing her cross over that line, handcuffing that one dude to the truck as she's driving him, making him run along to get information. She ends up shooting that one dude in the leg. What was it, Pee-wee? Yeah, she ended up shooting Pee-wee in the leg to get the information she needed. She had that, like, what are those things called? Are they called garrots? Those like wired weapon things. Aren't they called? I think they're called garrots. I could be mistaken. Had one around some dude's neck. It's like seeing how far she's willing to go in this particular case. Like, she's going to find Tom's killer. It's the only thing that's keeping her going. What's interesting is that there is a detective, Singleton, who is working on this whole entire situation. He's investigating Tom's murder, but obviously Liz avoided him subsequently since waking up, as well as, leaving, that whole time skip between episode 8 and 9. So I think we're going to definitely be seeing him more and more. He is, like, there are holes in her story, because it's like, oh yeah, someone came here and shot him. Do you know who it was? Nope, I was unconscious. How'd you get to the hospital? I have no idea how I was unconscious. It's like, he knows there's more to it. And the fact is that she's doing investigating of her own, but it's like, oh, he's like, I'm here to give you a, friendly warning that it is a crime. If you are it is a crime to be an accessory to the whole thing. Like, I don't know whether he thinks Liz had something specifically to do with her husband's murder. I mean, the fact of the matter is, maybe, like, he's thinking, like, she was kind of in deep in something. Maybe she's thinking, like, whoever helped her out, they committed a crime, so they need to be brought to justice in a sense. But, I was like, oh, you're helping those people out who helped you. So I don't know what that whole situation is like. Maybe he's thinking like, oh, you've got some hired help to handle this situation, but you're still going to be an accessory to it. So I mean, because even if she could say anything, it's not like she can bring Reddington up, because that's the whole point, to keep him in the shadows about everything, in this whole situation. So we'll just kind of have to see how that whole thing goes. She found Navarro, but Navarro only gave her a little bit of information, basically saying like she was always under the impression that Nick was asking Tom for help, and now it's like she now knows the truth. Tom went to Nick for help, so it's like, what was Tom doing? What did Tom need Nick's help for? Which is what I was bringing up earlier. It's like, you were a few steps. She's a few steps away from figuring everything out, Reddington. And when she does, when she finds out on her own, especially because Ian, the dude who actually killed Tom, it's like, he knows that like Liz is back on the scene, and he's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, don't worry, let things play their course. He's like, I'll handle things on my end. Immediately, what I think this is going to have something to do with is he's going to manipulate her, try to at the very least. He's like, oh, probably going to end up telling her the truth. Like, oh, the reason why this all happened, it's because of Reddington. And once again, she will not forgive Reddington. Father or not, she will not forgive him for Tom's death. Especially because it's like, he died because of you, and plus whoever's in that suitcase too, that's going to add a whole new layer to this whole situation for her. So I am so interested to see what that all turns out to be. Like, I'm curious to see what Ian has up his sleeve. Is there someone he's actually working for, or is he? Because the whole thing was like, oh, selling that information, but it's like, what is your beef with Reddington? Like, do you have beef with him? Is there someone else? Is this going to be someone we haven't seen in a while? Because I still, someone I keep bringing up this storyline. What the hell is up with the Kirk situation? Is it that Reddington told him, was like, nope, I am Liz's dad. Still have no idea what it is he told Kirk to make Kirk bounce back in season 4, So maybe we'll see that maybe he's technically behind stuff like this. But no, he wouldn't, because Liz ending up the way she did. I mean, if it be fair, Liz because they were going to kill them all anyway. So definitely he wouldn't be behind us. I have to take that back. That's still a mystery in the back of my head. Whether they give that to the night or not, I don't know. But it definitely couldn't be him. So it's like, who would be connected to this situation? Like I said, not unless Ian's in this crap all on his own. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what his plans are in this whole situation. I almost forgot to just kind of end it on a slightly more lighthearted aspect. I love that he got that lady Isaacson's help. Was like, oh yeah, like there's this dope like tattoo guy. She's like, whoa. It's like, oh, it's this dude. It's like, yeah, like I can, set you up an appointment. It's like, oh yeah, you could get a tattoo right there. It could be of Tweety Bird or Yosemite Sam or a lady on a wrench. It's like, I love you, Reddington. I love you so much, dude. Also, really quickly, there was this whole line from the judge, because she was talking about the fact is that she was once a good person, like, but then she crossed the line to protect someone that she loves, particularly in her situation, her son. Not really a situation she should have protected him, but it was just a situation it was just a situation that kind of spiraled out of control. But particularly what her son did, like, you understand as a parent you want to protect your kid, but it's like certain things, it's like you kind of gotta let the chips fall where they lie, So not like she actually asked Mitchell to take care of it, but hence the whole blackmail and manipulation situation. Nevertheless, the whole situation just kind of got me thinking, like, it makes you wonder, like, at one point in time, Red probably was a good man. It's like, we just never really ever got to see that side of him. I would have loved to kind of see what kind of man Red was before this whole situation, before he kind of became the criminal giant that he is, I don't know, that was just something that was kind of floating in the back of my mind I want to talk about. But like I said, nevertheless, a great episode. Very interested to see what goes down in the next episode, especially with this whole Liz hell-bent on revenge situation. Because, like I said, she's getting closer and closer to the truth. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.